Two people, same age, same job title, same salary down to the dollar. One of them will retire a millionaire. The other will work until they're 70, stressed about money the entire way. Same income, completely different outcomes. If you think that sounds impossible, you're not alone. Most people assume wealth comes down to how much you earn. Get a better job, get a raise, get a bonus, and eventually you'll just end up rich. It's the most common belief about money, and it's almost completely wrong. Because wealth isn't built through income, it's built through a sequence. A specific order of financial milestones that, once you understand them, completely change how you see your own money. There are three of them. Most people never cross the first one. A small percentage make it to the second. And almost nobody, even high earners, ever reaches the third because they didn't even know it existed. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which milestone you're at right now, and more importantly, what's actually standing between you and the next one. Because it's probably not what you think. Here's why so many people get this wrong. From the time we're kids, we're taught a simple equation. Work hard, earn money, and money equals success. So naturally, we assume that earning more money is the goal. Get the promotion, get the higher paying job, make six figures, then you've made it. But ask any financial advisor and they'll tell you the same strange truth. Some of the highest earners they've ever worked with, doctors, lawyers, executives, are surprisingly close to broke. And some of the wealthiest people they know have completely ordinary jobs. This is sometimes called the high income trap. The more money flows into your hands, the more your brain quietly expects to spend. Psychologists call this lifestyle creep. Every raise gets absorbed almost instantly by a slightly better apartment, a slightly nicer car, slightly more takeout. Your income goes up, your stress about money doesn't go down. It just resets to a more expensive version of the same stress. So if income isn't the real measure of wealth, what is? This is where net worth comes in, and more specifically, the three thresholds that actually separate people who build wealth from people who stay stuck, regardless of what they earn. The first milestone isn't about getting rich. It's about getting safe. Survival net worth means having enough saved that an unexpected expense doesn't destroy you. A car repair, a medical bill, a month without work. For most people, this number is smaller than you'd think, often just a few $1,000s sitting in savings. But here's the part nobody talks about. Most people aren't stuck here because they can't save money. They're stuck here because of how their brain processes financial stress. Picture two people who both just got hit with a surprise $800 expense. Person A has $3,000 saved. They feel a small sting, pay it, and move on with their week. Person B has $0 saved. That same $800 bill triggers panic, and panic makes people do something strange. It makes them reach for short-term relief instead of long-term solutions. A credit card, a buy now pay later app, a payday loan. Anything that makes the immediate pain go away, even if it creates a bigger problem a month from now. This is why people with no safety net often stay broke. Not because they're bad with money, but because emergencies push them into decisions that are designed to feel good today and hurt later. Crossing this first milestone, even just a small cushion, does something psychological as much as financial. It removes the panic response. And once panic is gone, people make noticeably better decisions with everything else in their financial life. This is why the first milestone matters so much more than people realize. It's not about being rich. It's about removing the constant background fear that one bad week could break you. The second milestone is where things start to feel like real wealth, and it's the one most people picture when they imagine being rich. Freedom net worth means you've paid off high-interest debt, and you have enough invested that your money is now working alongside you. This is the milestone where people start to feel less like they're trapped on a treadmill and more like they're actually moving forward. But here's the psychological trap at this stage. As people start making more money and crossing into this territory, something sneaky happens. Their brain starts treating their growing income as permission to spend instead of fuel to invest. Think about it like this. Imagine your income is a hose filling up a bucket. The bucket is your net worth. Most people, The moment that hose gets bigger, immediately get a bigger bucket, with more holes in it, a bigger apartment, a nicer car, more subscriptions, fancier nights out. The hose is pouring in more water than ever, but the bucket never actually fills up, because the holes grew just as fast as the flow. This is why so many high earners stay financially stuck, even with great salaries. It's not the size of the hose that matters, it's how many holes are in the bucket. People who cross into true freedom net worth do one thing differently. When their income grows, they let their savings rate grow with it, not just their spending. Even a small shift, like saving half of every raise instead of spending all of it, completely changes the trajectory over time. And this is the milestone where a compounding starts to feel real instead of theoretical. Compounding simply means your money earns money, and then that money earns money too. It's slow at first, almost invisible, and then at a certain point, it starts moving faster than your paycheck ever could. Here's a simple way to picture it. Imagine rolling a snowball down a hill. At the top, it barely picks up any snow. You have to keep pushing it yourself. But the further it rolls, the bigger it gets, and the bigger it gets, the faster it grows on its own, with less effort from you. Early investing feels like pushing the snowball uphill. Years later, it feels like the snowball is rolling itself. This is why freedom net worth changes how people feel about work. It's not that they're suddenly rich, it's that money has stopped being something they only get from a job, and started being something working quietly in the background, every single day, whether they're working or not. This is where it gets interesting, because most people have never even heard of the third milestone, not because it's complicated, but because almost nobody reaches it, and almost nobody teaches it. This third milestone is what separates people who are simply comfortable from people who are genuinely wealthy. It's the point where your investments don't just grow, they could financially support your life without you ever working again, even if you live for decades after that point. This is often called financial independence, and the psychology here is completely different from the first two milestones. In milestone 1, the goal was safety. In milestone 2, the goal was momentum. But in milestone 3, something shifts. The goal becomes patience. Here's why patience becomes the entire game. The path between milestone 2 and milestone 3 usually doesn't look exciting. There's no dramatic moment where you suddenly become wealthy. It's quiet. It's boring. It's the same modest investment, month after month, year after year, while your bank balance seems to barely move, until one day, almost without warning, it doesn't barely move anymore. This is the part of compounding most people give up right before they would have seen it pay off. Picture someone folding a piece of paper in half, again and again. The first few folds barely change its size. It still looks thin, almost the same as before, but if you could somehow fold that same paper 40 times, mathematically, it would be thick enough to reach the moon. The early folds feel pointless. The growth is happening, it's just invisible for a long time. That's exactly what milestone 3 feels like from the inside. The first 10 years can feel like nothing is happening. But the compounding happening underneath is identical to those paper folds, quiet, invisible, and then, suddenly enormous. This is precisely why most people never reach this milestone, even high earners. Not because the math doesn't work, but because the boredom wins first. They see 10 years of slow, unremarkable progress and assume it's not working, so they stop, right before the curve was about to bend upward. So here's the deeper truth hiding underneath all three of these milestones. Wealth was never really about income. It was never really about discipline either, not in the way most people imagine it, gritting your teeth and suffering through sacrifice forever. Wealth is about which milestone your brain is currently operating from. Someone stuck in survival mode makes decisions out of fear because every dollar feels urgent. Someone in freedom mode makes decisions out of momentum because they can finally see progress. Someone moving toward independence makes decisions out of patience because they understand the real reward is invisible for a long time before it becomes obvious. This explains the two people from the beginning of this video. Same income, completely different financial futures. It was never about how much they earned. It was about which psychological stage they were operating from, and whether their spending grew faster than their bucket, or their bucket grew faster than their spending. So here's the practical version of everything you just learned. If you're in milestone 1, your only job right now is building a small cushion, enough to remove panic from financial emergencies. Not perfection, just enough that one bad week can't derail your whole month. If you're in milestone 2, the goal is closing the holes in the bucket before chasing a bigger hose. Before celebrating the next raise, ask a simple question. Is my savings rate growing along with my income, or is my spending quietly eating the difference? And if you're working toward milestone 3, the most important skill isn't a financial one at all. It's patience. It's trusting the folds in the paper even when the size barely seems to change. Because the version of compounding that looks boring for years is the exact same compounding that eventually changes someone's entire life. Here's the thought worth sitting with. Most people spend their whole lives chasing a bigger income, assuming that's the missing piece to becoming wealthy. But income was never the real milestone. The real milestones were happening quietly in the background the entire time, in how much panic a bill creates, in how many holes are in the bucket, and whether someone keeps folding the paper after it stops looking like it's working. The people who build real wealth aren't always the ones who earned the most. They're the ones who understood which milestone they were standing on and kept moving forward, especially through the boring part, when it looked like nothing was happening at all. Because that boring part right there, that's usually the exact moment right before everything changes.